Yeah, good morning. It's a beautiful morning today, and I just got to work, and I thought there are things that we should discuss. I've been planning on doing this video for a while, but today was the day I felt okay. Yeah, this is the time to do it because of certain things. Um, the last two videos were wonderful. I was able to talk about a lot of things, the development of that discussion between science and the Bible, and I was able to take us through how the thought processes have developed over the centuries. And you kind of get the feeling of being in somebody's mind, but that person, you can't see that person. When you really research through the Bible and then look at the things that are going on. I was able to talk about this in my church during the weekend. You kind of see, except you're blind, you will see that uh, cohesion or that intercourse, between different ideas. But what is obvious in the world is that it seems somebody is deliberately trying to, separate the two worlds. The world of the Bible is different. The secular world is different. And of course, the only thing that can achieve that is sin. When people destroy one another, when people do evil, of course, the Bible doesn't advocate that. And so you can actually separate the two worlds via sin. And so this is what we see going on, and that is the necessity of doing this. Now, sometimes I love to listen to scientific talks. I love scientific material because of that mindset that I have. But you discover that the effort to separate the two worlds is just too powerful, and you find that we tend not to agree with most of the scientists because of that effort to make sure that the two worlds are separate. So, nevertheless, I think for many of us, a good percentage of human beings in the world today are not really scientifically educated. They are not really scientifically educated. They depend a lot on religion, and it is very important for people like me to help to open their minds. Again, when you go into that realm, you discover two worlds. A group of people who say, just keep them in that religion, let them not, interact with the other world. And then, of course, those other ones in that world also, notable of which I know one of the YouTubers, I'm not going to mention his name, I went through his video and I heard him say something like that, and it was really, well, I was listening, but I wasn't convinced because he was not really talking like a scientist. He's a scientist, but he wasn't talking like a scientist, and he was trying to really forcefully separate the two worlds. And I'm not going to be too biased, and I'm going to say yes, in reaction to somebody in the religious side who wants to make you his enemy. Of course, you too, you want to react. And also those in the religious side, if the atheist wants to make you his enemy, of course you want to react and say, yeah, I don't want anything to do with your science. And so those things are there, and that is why we keep on having conflicts. There must be one side fighting the other. Blood must be spilled, and that's why we see what is going on now. If you look, the world is split almost split into two. Russia on one side, the rest of the world on the other. There is the non-aligned group, the silent group, and that effort is there that those two groups must be fighting, and there can never be world peace. So these are the issues that we keep on bringing up. So that great majority of people that don't know much about science tend to be a problem. To tell you the truth, they tend to be a problem, and so I just want to spend a few minutes to talk about certain things that some of us who are scientifically oriented might want to look at. The data that has come up over the years. Now, some of these things, of course, I want to move away from science and talk about the religious aspect a little bit. Those that tend to be religious and yet, not really conventional religion, and talk about one or two things that have happened over the years. One of the experiences that people have claimed to have had, maybe visitations from aliens, things like that, have left a lot of things that I believe that we should continue to look at. A lot of things that we should continue to investigate and try to see why the world is moving the way it is moving. Today, as I was coming, I started thinking about certain things, and what I began to understand is that there are forces, of course, like I said, that want to divide us. For whatever reason, I don't know. I'm going to talk about that another time. But there are forces that are putting things in play. Now, when you study the Bible and you study events, you will discover that there is the distinct work of God that is taking place, and then there is that distinct effort that is trying to destroy the work of God, and yet can't help but work for God. Because God is God. Of course, they won't understand that because they think that they can actually fight God. But in fighting God, they tend to work for God. And that is the enigma of the whole situation. That a person of faith might have a little edge when he or she is involved in studying the world, studying science. They tend to trying to fight against God, they work for him instead. And you find that very delicately in place. And so you see, I was meditating this morning and I discovered, I said, why is it that it seems that the wrong people have money? That the wrong people have money. That you look at somebody who should have money and he doesn't have money. She doesn't have money. And the wrong people tend to have money. It is just a manifestation of what the Bible has already said. And that is found in Revelation chapter 12 and 13 about the world system. I have written a lot about that in this book. You should get your copy. It's called The Kingdom of Heaven on Earth, the works of a silent crusader. I have discussed most of these things I often talk about in this book here. And there are other books that also we'll be looking at today. But this one is very important for this time that we're in. And you find that Revelations has given us that background to the work of what the Bible calls the Antichrist. The Antichrist is the system that tries to fight God. So it exists solely to fight God. And for that reason, it has taken over the resources of the world and puts it in the hands of those it wants to fulfill that agenda. So, because you look at it and you find that, there's so much to be done. The peace can be achieved. The theory is there. You go to the universities, you hear the theory, it is so sweet. You come to the churches talk about so great things. Yet on the streets, it is another thing. In the offices, it is another thing. And that difference is just not there. That cutting edge to bring solutions is just not there. Because there is a deliberate effort through sin, public sin, secret sin, to divert resources that can be used to change the world and put it into the hands of those who will do the very opposite of that, or will sit silly, will just sit silly on it and not do anything about it. And once in a while, it comes to the point in time when the world cannot help but do what it should do. And still, you trace it down, and you find the people that have the resources to do it. They are concerned that they don't want to be cheated, as it were. They don't want to give it their all, because when they give it their all, they feel like they will be cheated. And so this is just the problem that we keep on facing. And this is evidence of, that is why at the point where human civilization seems to be moving fast, something will come up to try to slow it down. This is what is happening in Ukraine, and probably the threat of world war. And, if you are in the center of the whole thing, you will understand what I'm saying. And that there is a force, an invisible force, sometimes visible, that is really trying to slow down the effort at peace, the effort at progress, for some reason. And no matter how, that is why, as much as I love science, I know better. As much as I love, the study of technology and all that, I know better. I know that the forces that really control humanity, control the world, are beyond science, and they are in the mind of those people who claim to be scientists. They're in the minds of those who say they are not scientists. They are there to continue to create that situation that makes life unfathomable, and that is just the problem. And so when you are in the midst of those things, when you have the bird's eye view, as it were, you will be able to see those players in action. You will be able to see them in action. You're able to see, they talked about the Illuminati some time ago. People were so crazy about the issue of the Illuminati, stuff like that. Sometimes you listen to it, sometimes you don't. And I was writing it some time ago, and I was just coming out trying to study the world system. Even, looking at the Bible, looking at the events, I was trying to study the world system. And I came up with a diagram. And suddenly I discovered that this diagram actually resembles the symbol of the Illuminati. I want you to have a brief look. Look at it here. If you look at the symbol of the Illuminati, I don't have it here, but it's a coin-like shape, with a pyramid, and there's a pyramid on top. This, I actually removed the small pyramid here, and I put this image. That's the image of Nebuchadnezzar, and it follows that same schematic, and And this is just by observing the events in the world. How the world system has so deceived people to think, to follow it, to live in the rat race, and that combined with sin to create a system like this. And this is the symbol of it is so identical to the symbol of the Illuminati. And so people kept on talking about the Illuminati, and we were saying, oh no, the Illuminati, we didn't really know what to say. But when this came up, I understood. I said, look, we are playing with a lot of things we don't understand. So this is, you see, there is, whether the Illuminati exists or it does not exist, for me it doesn't matter, because the truth of what it symbolizes is going on. And you find that this system is a cycle of chaos. I named it the cycle of chaos. And it is based on bad leadership from the home. It goes down to the woman, from the man to the woman, and the children inherit that bad relationship and bad leadership, and goes into the society. There's a lot of dysfunctionality and violence and a chaotic society, and it goes round and round in this world that human beings are claiming to have dominion of. And so this is just what goes on in the world today. These are the forces that actually control the world today. And these forces are able to truncate whatever advancement is going on, whether technologically or whatever. And you find that there are people in certain places that have the resources, and it just looks like these people can make changes. In the past, let's say about 3 decades or so, there are certain people in the world system that everybody looks up to, thinking, oh, this person is going to make the change because he has so much money and he has the heart to do it. And some of these people get into, they probably are business people, make their money, and then they get into philanthropy, and they make all sorts of claims, and you think, okay, so the world is going to become better. But something comes along and says, no, the more they work to make the world better, the less the world becomes better, the worse the world becomes. I'm going to name some of them, and I want to say that I've been observing their work, and this is what I've noticed. Bill Gates, puts a lot into philanthropy, especially in the health sector. But for a while now, since he has been in the health sector, so many pandemics. People have accused him of being behind some of those things. I personally don't believe it, just like I didn't believe the Illuminati thing. And yet, those things keep on happening. If he is not behind it, he should think. He should bring his mind to think. Is there something else I'm missing? Now, the second person that is Elon Musk. I've been observing Elon Musk for a few years now. And, the same thing is happening to him too. He's making rockets, going into renewable energy, solution-based engineering. And as he's doing that, things keep on coming. The pandemics are on his neck. And then the wars just keep on coming. Governments want to use the technology differently by, taking control of certain areas of the world and all. Of course, not directly at him, but when you look at the system, you understand what is really going on. There is some kind of protectionism going on because people are thinking, okay, we are going to take control of this, our technology, and we are going to be the next great civilization, whatever. So you see, the same things keep on perturbing these very people. And you study them closely, you will discover that it seems they lack the power to make that cutting edge, because technology has its limits, science has its limits. They lack that cutting edge to provide that leadership that is required. And same thing for the governments. The American governments have dominated since the Second World War. Now America is in some kind of limbo. It has to watch out for its own territory, because if it goes too much into world politics, it will forget about its own territory, and the territory will be invaded. And so America is in trouble. The same thing happened to Britain. And today, everybody is trying to shed responsibility, because the problems of the world are a little bit too much. And so I try to look at another thing. Now, I just showed you something, a schematic. There's another schematic that I want to show you. And this is something again that is mythical. Okay? Supposed to be mythical. The American culture of UFOs. There's this group I always follow. For a while, I haven't been following them because I understand what they're saying, and I've gotten into my own research on the subject. But they have this fanatical, inspiration to study UFOs. And I have some of the things they say, I'm kind of not very interested. But once in a while, I stumble on things that really draw my attention. And I've stumbled on one or two talks and descriptions of extraterrestrial activity that have really caught my attention. And one of the popular issues is the Roswell event. The story about the alien crash, in the United States. And I've listened to so many people talk about it, but there's this one guy. I think that is what I missed. I didn't really bring up his name, but he is this guy that he has a channel on YouTube, and he studies the narration of the Roswell crash according to McElroy. Now, McElroy is a lady, a nurse, a Navy nurse, or an Air Force nurse, I think, who actually witnessed the whole event and was privileged to interview the alien that crash landed somewhere in Roswell. So it is a very detailed, as different from what others have done on the subject. I mean, his own McElroy's narration of the subject is so detailed, is so wonderful. And I followed it, I listened to it with all the evidence he provided, and I went through it again and again and again, and this came up. Now, I named this McElroy's schematic on Revelations 12 and 13. Now, she didn't really talk about Revelations, but she did without knowing she did, probably. So, because I was studying Revelations 12 and 13, I knew that what she was talking about was about Revelations. And so, she talks about the Bible in the whole thing, and she talks about many other subjects. And I tended to be convinced about hers. Of course, I cannot say whether it's real or not, but whether she made it up or what really happened, what she said happened, I don't really know. I cannot say. But this schematic came up. And in this schematic, there is evidence that the domain, what she called the domain, This is representing the old empire, as you can see it. It's representing the old empire, this whole area here. And this is representing the domain. Now in the Bible, the domain is Lucifer and his fallen angels, while the old empire, of course, is the kingdom of God, the kingdom of heaven. Now, the kingdom of heaven is considered negative in her own narrative as opposed to the Bible. And, everybody telling a story tells a story from his or her own point of view. And, of course, her point of view was against the Bible for the domain. The domain was the protagonist in her own story, And the domain, like the Bible says it, cut out or rebelled against the old empire. And, is currently on a war to liberate SBs. And we are supposed to be SBs, human beings, human spirits here on earth. And so, and on and on and on, the whole narrative. You want to listen, you want to know more about it, go to that YouTube channel. Maybe in the next video, I'll put up the channel for you. But I'm sure those of you who are UFO fanatics, you remember this very narrative, and you know where to look. So the evidence is clear that there has been a reduction in the territory of the domain from Revelations chapter 12 verse 13, because Revelations chapter 12 verse 13 puts it clearly that the territory of the domain or the kingdom of Satan, as it were the dragon, is 1/3. But in McElroy's discussions, she put it at 1/4. If you know your math, you know that 1/4 is less than 1/3. So since the time of John the Apostle, who wrote the book of Revelations, till 1947, when the Roswell event took place, there has been a reduction of the kingdom, not by 1/3. This whole place is 1/3. This whole place is 1/4, and so there has been a reduction by a fraction from 1/3 to 1/4, and so this is very clear. This is the data that you can get from that McElroy's work, and you see this is so clear and it's so revealing that if that story is true, something has happened. And you see that thing repeated even in the film Matrix, where Morpheus confesses that since the coming of Neo, they have liberated more minds from the Matrix than ever before. And this is what Jesus Christ did. That means since the coming of Jesus Christ, the kingdom of heaven suffered violence, and the violent have taken it by force in the spirit. That means more minds were liberated through conversion to Christianity than ever before. But something began to happen from 1947 till now. We cannot get the data for that, except we have another UFO who comes and tells us, look, this is what is going on. Just like the one who visited Roswell, as it were. We need another UFO to give us this data. Without the Roswell data, I don't know, we couldn't have known that there has been this move, maybe except in the Matrix, But this is how spiritual data comes up. The Bible is spiritual data. So this is just how spiritual data comes to us, and we are able to know that the evidence that the Bible has given is true. And something has happened between AD 90 to AD 1947. There's been a reduction in the domain from 1/3 to 1/4, of the whole old empire. So this is the data we get from that. But the problem is that a lot of this is considered fiction. It's not considered true because governments are saying it does not exist. But I, for one, should not be one who throws this away, because I know that I have written so much, and a lot of people don't believe that it exists too. I've done so much, people don't believe it exists. So I tend to really go with this, and I believe that we should look very closely at our billionaires, whether Elon Musk, Bill Gates, leaders of countries like Russia, America, key figures in Africa. These people know more than we are being told. But the problem and the mistake we often make is to think that we don't have a responsibility. We are the tools they use by telling us lies. Like, have children for one. This one has come up very recently, and I'm very concerned about it. They tell you, have children as much as you can because we need people. And yet, many people we know don't have the tools to take care of these children, are not really give intellectually and all that, don't have those tools to take care of these children. Now, some of these billionaires, some of these millionaires, they know what they are made for. They are really in their destiny, and they're really doing what they're supposed to do. But they lack the moral capacity to actually take us where we're supposed to go. So it is your responsibility to look and say, what is my own duty as an individual, as a part of a greater community, to do what I need to do? You don't need to follow some of those people, just hook, line, and sinker. Okay? You need to think, and you need to say, what is my own position? What is my own destiny? What is my own what has God given me to do in this world? And you go into it. We always fall into the trap of worshiping these people we think have the resources. And, because we are afraid that they can threaten us with biological weapons, they can threaten us with economic alienation, they can threaten us with war and crises. A lot of the wars are sponsored, by oligarchs. That's why oligarchs are being deprived of some of their resources so that the war in Ukraine will stop. So oligarchs have a lot to do with wars. So we need to be careful. Now, I don't want to be responsible for stopping progress by pointing fingers at any one person. I just mentioned these people, so that they can take note and not fall into the same problem we have with the Russian oligarchs. Yeah, because they too have a role, and they should, stop looking too much, stop being selfish, stop deceiving the people that having more children is going to solve your problem. It's not going to solve your problem one bit. Have children you can take care of. If you can take care of one. I'm a pastor telling you this. I know what I'm talking about. If you can take care of 2, take 2. If you can take care of 10, why not? Elon Musk can take care of 10 children, so let him go ahead. It's great. That is his issue. As long as, those children are going to come out wholesome. We have so many celebrities around the world that have really destroyed it in terms of parenting and all that. I'm not going to name that one either, those ones. But, we need to understand that it's not everything that a millionaire or billionaire tells you that is right. You need to grow educationally. You need to study spiritual books, study science books, study sociological books. Some of the problems of the world system is that they tell you must be limited to this particular field. Yes, you should do your field, but in your spare time, try to read wide. Try to understand the things that might not be in that field. Hold your governments to account. Don't sit at home thinking the government will provide everything. We are all part of one, system, one body. And whether we like it or not, if the domain, as it were, succeeds, I mean, it's still going to be one system. If the old empire destroys the domain, it's still going to be one system. So if you are careless about these things, you will just be the one who will suffer it. And I'm not going to go into some of the theologies. A lot of these things are controlled by theology. Buddhist theology, Hindu theology, Christian theology, Islamic theology, so many different religions. But if you are a searcher for truth, you will come to the truth, and the truth will set you free. And I believe in Jesus Christ, and a lot of things I've come to know through the Bible. And when I study wide, I see it taking me back to the Bible, and I'm able to see the truth in there. So I've taken a lot of risk today to talk about certain things. I think it's important vis-a-vis the threat of Third World War. I hope it's not going to take place. Vis-a-vis the threat that even if a Third World War doesn't take place, I mean, the last 10 to 12 years, it's been hell all over the world. And we need to continue to look at these things and say, okay, this is how we want our world to go, and then work towards it. I'm David Dungi Chinke. Have a nice day.